Hey, people who lost their jobs to AI, what happened? I'm an epidemiologist working for a local health department in a team building disease surveillance capacity. Basically, my team makes data cleaning and visualizations automated so we can spend time interpreting the output and detect outbreaks and patterns earlier. We all have masters or PhDs in epidemiology/biostatistics. We are being pushed out in the middle of respiratory season at the end of the year, so the IT team can make oversimplified graphs that are not useful and use AI for the rest. It's absolutely horrifying that our community's health is in the hands of untrained IT and AI. Voice actor here. While I still get the bigger commercials and jobs, I've lost a lot of the smaller jobs. For example, storyboarding. Ad agencies will create a digital storyboard detailing what the ad will look like. They hire a voice artist to do a preliminary voiceover. You'd earn like $150 to $200 for the hour. It's all Al now. I've worked on campaigns where all of the voice artists refused to sign their contract because there's a new clause in it. If they sign it, they're signing the rights of their voiceover to AI. So this client can use their voice without them ever having to record anything else again. They all refused. The client just recast all of them. Graphic designer here. I haven't been fully replaced yet, but the landscape has completely changed. Clients now expect me to use AI as a co-pilot, generating initial concepts, mood boards, and even rough copy in minutes, not hours. The job is becoming less about executing the first idea and more about curating, refining, and adding the crucial human touch, and catching AI's weird mistakes. It feels less like I lost my job and more like my job description was rewritten overnight. The pressure to constantly adapt is the real challenge.
This seems to be the big appeal of AI for bosses. It allows people who don't know how to do things to look like they can do things. So yeah, your boss is like, look at me, I'm a graphic designer / data scientist / whatever, when they have no idea what you actually do or how to evaluate the AI results. I'm so sorry, I used to be a data scientist with 13 years. My boss wanted me to solve a problem which involved clustering sensor data by location. Because errors in latitude and longitude tend to be random, we'll have elliptical clouds of points. So I said we should use k-means. My boss picked up his laptop, turned it around, and said, "But Copilot says that we should use dbScan." I researched dbScan and found that it would be very slow and do the wrong thing in a worse way. My boss did not agree. I was laid off a few weeks later, along with the rest of the data team. My boss was laid off 2 months after that. Now the company has an open position for an AI scientist in India. This bet on AI originating from the US-based companies is so weird to me. It seems to be so detrimental, yet most of the leadership seems to be so committed. It feels almost like a cult. As somewhat of a bystander, it feels like China's bet on electrification and exports of technology related to sustainable energy seems so much better. And yet, US folks seem to be doubling down on their initial stance. I don't think AI is all that different from outsourcing, which they have been doing for years. The aim is to replace expensive labor with cheap labor, either paying a subscription fee for AI or paying someone in a low-wage country to do the same job. It's the same thing. It's like the people in charge of companies would really prefer not to have employees at all. Businesses boast about their revenue per employee metrics. American-style management doesn't want to have employees. Something is very off. Not me, but one of my close friends worked at a call center that was specifically for the hard of hearing / disabled. The people who have the phones that have screens that write out or speak the text. Her job was to basically subtitle each call that came in. She would type out the conversation as it was happening for the disabled person. As you can imagine, they were all laid off and replaced by AI. I've heard it's already caused legal issues and people suing for the AI telling them incorrect info, like from doctors or medical-related conversations.
I'm not surprised at all.
I worked in customer service. Part of my job was to oversee the chatbot that users would speak to before they got through to an actual agent. The AI would consistently get information incorrect. I dealt with licenses, so there's legal implications if someone is provided with incorrect information from us. Since I was laid off, I've seen an uptick of YouTube videos about how the company is a scam and fallen into other dark patterns, pop-ups, auto-renewals, etc., to extort more money from their elderly users, with no real way for them to get assistance with a refund, so the amount of CC disputes has risen exponentially. And keep in mind, the company has to pay for every dispute, whether they win or lose. I've already seen they're regretting it and are now outsourcing cheaper labor from abroad and taking advantage of foreign workers. But fuck, they torpedoed any goodwill their brand may have gotten. This just happened yesterday, so new wounds. They had us train a chatbot, so we made the resources to feed it. The chatbot was supposed to help us with the load. Chatbot now gets to carry the whole load. Entire support team got laid off. Damn, that sucks for everyone. As a customer, I won't use companies that only have chatbot for support. I'm pretty good at problem solving most issues that come up, so for the instances I need to reach out to support, it's pretty nuanced/complex, which chatbots cannot handle. I was a literary editor for one of the largest sci-fi presses in the world. My boss, the executive editor, retired, and the company reassessed their practices. So after spending 15 years working for the greater good of sci-fi, I got outsourced to a goddamn robot. To be fair, I guess I probably should have seen that coming, given the genre. Just never thought it'd surpass human reading/analysis that fast. Call them out. I love sci-fi, but for that shit, I am willing to not buy from them ever again. Was making 3D models for 20 years, but since AI became a thing, most people just skip the 3D stage altogether and just generate the final image or video instead. Al is still trash at 3D modeling, but it's great at generating the final product, making the models themselves unnecessary. Working retail now.
Put your skills on Upwork, Fiverr, and other such platforms. You'll be competing with obvious fake profiles, but real talent does get work and rewarded freelancing there. And clients like me, once we find you, are very jaded by the fakes and latch on to real people when we find them. If nothing more, it can be a good side hustle. There is plenty of use for 3D models. I worked for a newspaper as an editor. I was basically a glorified spell checker. They automated my job for less than $1,000 a year. Now, I bartend and drive school buses to make ends meet. Fuck if I am going through this right now. I am going to be fully transparent here. To preface, I didn't lose my job to just AI, but to outsourcing in tandem with Al that our C-level execs thought could perform on par with US employees. I work for a Microsoft vendor that provides global support for Azure Cloud and 365. This covers a lot of support verticals. Some are technical and some are not so technical. I am a support engineer for Azure Identity and Access Management. We provide break-fix, RCA, and advisory support on anything from hybrid environment identity management, AD-Arrow Entra ID, cloud-only environments, enterprise provisioning, SCIM, SSO, RBAC, application access, onboarding/offboarding, iLifecycle management, Key Vault, directory management, and subscription concepts, etc. We have the broadest scope of Azure technical support. You, as a small to medium business or enterprise organization, can pay for Azure support. The support plans vary from broad commercial to unified, expensive and white glove. Think Fortune 500 companies. When you make a support request, likely the request goes to a vendor like myself. Sometimes you get a guy who can't speak English and the support is awful. Or you get to an American team, or sometimes they escalate to the better performing teams. As a vendor, we have a contract with Microsoft to provide this support. There are internal Microsoft support engineers, but a smaller team working for typically the customers Microsoft deems the most important. My team is comprised of American engineers. We consistently have had the highest metrics, such as days to close complex issues, lowest rate of technical escalations, and the highest satisfaction ratings from our customers. Compared to teams from other countries, like Nigeria and India, where they take months to resolve issues, we'd resolve in days and have extremely low satisfaction reports. No shade, but I have seen the work from these places, and it is always playing hot potato and we are inquiring internally updates, putting work on other teams, no actual engineering or meaningful work. My company definitely already underpays us, but the last 2 years hard pushed us to use a Microsoft proprietary Copilot version to assist with our casework. This AI became a mandatory metric where we could get fired for not using it. This AI was and is almost always wrong with technical information and always wrong on key details when assessing complex issues. Essentially, it was completely useless if you have any semblance of competency in your role. So my company gets the go-ahead from Microsoft to start us on the highest tier of paid support, Unified, this year, after months of the AI push, which we crush as usual. And then they are renegotiating our contract, stringing us along, saying we will make more as we are doing more work and working with more demanding and complex organizations. Instead, once they get the contract, they lay off every single North American team to outsource our jobs to an African country that will not be named, to pay these guys $400 a month because they are betting they can perform near our level leveraging the AI we trained. It is still useless, and actively sabotaging yourself to attempt to rely on it in any form. Oh, and we didn't even get severance. We are just expected to work as normal and keep training this AI until our last day at the end of the year. It's molding and insanity. My condolences if you pay for Microsoft Azure support. You shouldn't. Feel free to ask me anything.
Wow. I used to work in the Microsoft team that ran the contracts for our vendor engineers. Not Azure, but another workload, vague for privacy reasons. I left just a few years ago. I wondered how MSFT would squeeze vendors with Al, and worried about it. My teams in Uruguay and China were really good, but maybe even those guys are at risk of loss of work to an AI. Frightening. I had 1,200 FTE vendor engineers in my organization, so this is a lot of people. And I wasn't even Azure. I wasn't replaced by Al in a one-to-one capacity, but it did destroy my field in general. It's a weird case. I had 10 years of experience doing an extremely niche type of government paperwork. Without going into detail, this was the sort of paperwork that businesses, especially small businesses, absolutely had to do for a few logistical reasons. Extremely tedious, extremely long, 250 to 500 pages about 20 times a year. I mostly worked for small businesses who themselves would work for various government branches. Around late 2023/early 2024, the typical Al grifters started selling their products to businesses in this area. The idea was, hey, you have a staff of managers, editors, and writers. Our LLM can replace all that. So the small businesses, which were, in truth, very small, less than 30 people, usually, ate this up. They were already fly-by-night skeleton operations, by design, and any cost-saving measure was welcome. So the small businesses laid a bunch of us specialists off, myself included. Here's where it gets weird. The type of paperwork we do is extremely complex, very time-sensitive, and is often reviewed at a very detailed level. So the AI actually couldn't replace the people without a lot more time and money invested in editing and correcting it. Problem is, this sort of paperwork was absolutely essential in keeping the business's doors open. So many of the small businesses, most of whom would live contract to contract, suddenly lost the ability to do this paperwork, which meant they lost the ability to get new contracts, which meant they mostly just went out of business. This all happened at roughly the same time as DOGE and an overall downtick in government spending. So my field was, briefly, replaced. But now people want to hire again because the AI couldn't do the job. But 80% of the companies that would be hiring these jobs back simply don't exist anymore because they went out of business. TLDR, AI replaced the job, but then the job replaced AI. But because the job's ecosystem was so fragile, grifters accidentally eliminated maybe 80% of the opportunities in the field.
My brother lost his job to AI this month. He worked in QA, and his company decided to sack 500 non-client-facing jobs to replace them with AI, without any warning. I honestly hope that the AI blows up in their face. In QA, the one area you really can't trust a hallucinating AI to do the correct thing all the time, Paycom is going to hurt for this one. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but we shall see in the news something weird come out down the road. I know it doesn't matter now because it affects your brother at this moment. Sorry to him. The greed of the leadership in the company will just ruin everyone, especially considering LLMS will fabricate results to comply with what they think you want the outcome to be. Yes, of course this is working perfectly. Great work. Me. What about this issue here? You are right. How did I miss that? Let me dig deeper. Daily convos with AI-assisted dev work. I haven't lost my job, but finding one is really hard because it seems 1/4 of the advertised now require AI to a high level. Context: GPT was only released 3 years ago and took off 2 years ago, so no one has a lot of experience except those very few people who worked in data and AI beforehand, which was a small subset of the tech community. So whilst I'm no slouch, not having a track record of AI implementation success stories under my belt makes me look less attractive as a candidate. I'd hate to work for a pro-AI company, but if you have no choice, this seems like the kind of thing you could easily lie about, right? Anything you do could have been done with AI assistance. I spent 15 or so years writing the content that goes on websites. I had a range of clients, from investment advisors to life coaches to nutrition coaches to people who sold sexy lingerie for men. I had an advantage with some clients because of my engineering degree, so I wasn't afraid of numbers or to dig deep on technical topics. I rage quit my first job doing this. Long story. Worked in a warehouse for a year or so, then took another job writing websites. Same deal. I hadn't been in that job for 10 months before our CEO, who inherited the company from his dad, discovered generative AI software. Suddenly they wanted the software to write everything and me to edit it. I fucking hated every second of it, and I guess it showed. Soon after, I was fired. The CEO was going to let the software write the website content so he could focus on his newest baby, a free-to-consumer print, yes, print, magazine. So I went back to my warehouse job, because jobs doing what I did were suddenly non-existent. The print magazine my former CEO was so passionate about kept getting thinner. Then they started charging for it. I don't know any more than that, but I do hope he is having a terrible time.